So you see, sometimes chords can be deceiving. Right there I'm playing a D chord to an E chord. And to some ears, it's going to sound like the pitch is going down because I'm going from these higher strings to these lower strings. So it sounds like it's dropping. But if you think about it in theory, D to E, E is actually higher than D. So that's where things can get really weird. That's why it's great to be able to use your sixth string when you're confused to figure out what your bass notes are going to be. So if we took something really basic, like let's say we took a song that's relatively familiar, like... and you were going, okay, so I'm going to figure out this song, but I don't know what the chords are, but I need to find what the notes are. So once I establish those notes, I can decide what the names of the chords are going to be. Okay, so you're going... And you know that next sound should go up. You see what I mean? So you're trying to figure out from there how to hear up and down pitches. Because on the sixth string moving from D to E, see, I know where D is. We already talked about this. Well, then E, I already know where that is too. So now I can hear that sound moving up. So if I'm trying to figure out a chord progression and I can't get it down here, I can't figure it out for one of two reasons. Either I can't hear the quality of the chord or the chord progression, whatever it might be. Or number two, let's say it's in a really odd key. So you're trying to figure out this song, but it's not using G, C, D, or it's not using A, D, and E. It's actually in the key of B flat or something weird like that. Well, then you could use this sixth string to figure out what those notes are actually going to be. So let's take this as an example. I'm going to play this little thing, okay? So let's say I was going to do, let's say I did... Okay, and you were going to try and figure that out. So you're down here, and you're trying all these chords. And again, you're going to focus on that home bass, that first chord, that root chord. So you hear it, and you're going, that's not it, and that's not it. So you keep trying to find it. So you find it on the sixth string, and you look, and you go, okay, well, that note right there is G sharp. Well, I can't play G sharp as an open chord. Now, I could capo, and we've talked a little bit about that, but I don't want to capo right now. I'm just trying to figure out how to find those notes so I can make that sound. Da-da-da, da-da, da-da-da, da-da. So now I've got G sharp, and I know that's not going to work down here. So now I'm going to keep going here and try and figure out what my next one is. Okay, well, I need a 4 chord. Right? We've already talked about the 1, 4, 5 and the 2, 3, 6 and everything. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if my 1 is here on the 6th string and it's G sharp, which it is, remember the 4 chord is simply underneath you on the 5th string. And then the 5 chord is simply 2 frets higher. So 1, 4, 5. So when I'm trying to figure songs out, I'm going to try and find my bass note, my home bass note, my root note, whatever you want to call it, somewhere on this 6th string. So I'm going to keep listening to that sound. I'm going to figure out what that first chord is. Once I've established that, I can figure out then, well, does it go to the 4? And there's a really easy way to find the 4, just as we've talked about, is right underneath the 1. And then the 5 is simply 2 frets higher. Okay, and then we could implement our power chords. We could play. And there we go, we're playing. So it's a really great method of ear training to figure out what the notes are. Of course, we've established what the names of the notes are on the 6th string, but then being able to use that as kind of a slide rule to decide, well, if we're listening to the song and we hear that root chord, and then we just pick a note hypothetically on the guitar. Now, I would always start with ones that are obvious. You know, I try G or A or C or D, because those are the keys that most songs are in. And if one of those doesn't work, then I have to use my law of high and low pitches to go, well, if I try G, how does that match up to the sound that I'm hearing with the root chord in the song that I'm trying to play? Well, I'm too low. Okay, so then I got to figure out, okay, well, where do I go? Try A. Okay, and I listen to it again. I rewind these poor things over and over and over and over. I grew up in the days of cassettes, and even 8-track tapes. So the bummer of all that stuff is you'd rewind these poor guys so many times that the tape would get stretched out and the pitch would get all off and everything like that. So luckily we don't have to deal with that anymore. But that's what you do, is you keep trying to find that sound. So I'd just rewind it and I'd listen. And then I'd rewind it and I'd listen. I'd rewind it and I'd listen. And then I'd go and try and figure out where that sound was. And once I figure out where that sound was, then I could attack, is it a 4 and a 5? Or is it moving from whatever to whatever, right? Because I used to play a lot of, hard rock and stuff when I was a kid. I learned that a lot of rock and roll would, if I could find the main chord there, then it would all go like, it was like 2 frets down and then 2 frets down again. So I started not only developing where to find the main chord, but what that sound was visually, like I could just move down. And then a lot of the hard rock stuff that I listened to would be those chords. But if it wasn't in the key of B, I might be in the key of C, right? I figure out that that's my root. And now I use my visualization to see that I'm just going to move down 2 and then 2, and I'm going to get the same effect. So the 6th string is really, really important for us as well in developing that ear.